through this financial crisis. And we've taken the bill backlog from what he racked up. He started with $5 billion and more than tripled that to $16.7 billion over just 2.5 years. I've cut that to $6.99 billion as of today. And, we fought him on refinancing a portion of that $16.7 billion that we were paying 12% interest on. It's like almost predatory. And he fought me for 61 days, but I just wore him down until he cried mercy, basically shamed him into it. And did the deal, we got 3.5% interest rate on that refinance instead of 12%. So you don't have to be like a fiscal wizard here to figure out that that saves us $4 to $6 billion net savings on what would have been guaranteed late payment interest fees that we would have been on the hook for. So really good stuff. You shouldn't have to fight a governor for something that's obvious, right? But we did. We've had to fight for everything. That $16.7 billion, the $1.140 billion in penalties, the fact that he's the largest deficit spender in the history of Illinois, you wouldn't have known any of that had I not fought for the Debt Transparency Act, which is the largest transparency reform in the history of the state of Illinois that allows me, the controller, to actually be able to see the liabilities that are being incurred by the state. Sounds crazy, like, what do you mean I couldn't see that before? I couldn't see it before, and neither could any controller before me. The difference is that nobody took on that fight. People were like, well, that's how it's always been, so I guess those are the rules. When the rules suck, you change the rules. That's my philosophy. You change the rules. Now the rules aren't so sucky, and I can see the bills a lot better. Still not perfectly, but certainly a lot better. I get to see them every month now versus once a year. And guess what happens? When the controller of the state of Illinois can only see the bills that were incurred by the state after they happened a year later, no wonder we have deficit spending to the degree that we do. No wonder we can't properly balance budgets. No wonder. So we won't have to wonder much longer because now we can see the money. And that's really important because my job is to protect your tax dollars. And I think that in order to protect them, I have to see how they're being spent or misspent. And you deserve to know how your tax dollars are being spent. So I've really led this transparency revolution. We passed the DTA, we call it the DTA, Debt Transparency Act. The governor vetoed it, of course he did, because he didn't want you to know how he's spending your money. But I overrode his veto with the help of Juliana and Kwame in the Senate. We overrode the veto unanimously in the House of Representatives. Never happened before in the history of the state of Illinois. It was a resounding victory for us. I think he cried that night. Might still be crying, it still hurts. But listen, we have been taking care of business because you didn't send me to sit behind the desk counting on an abacus, right? You sent me there to go fight for you, to make sure that people like Mary got the dignified service that she deserves to have, the dignified care, that people like Kwame, he didn't share a story about having cancer and being a survivor, but we need to make sure that folks that suffer from illness have quality care in Illinois. It is the moral thing to do, and it's also the fiscally sound thing, to make sure that people have access to preventative care instead of ending up in emergency rooms, or worse yet, losing their lives. We don't want that. That's not the type of state that we want to be. We want to make sure that mothers who want to send their children to early childhood education have that opportunity. But when Bruce Rauner was busy more than tripling the state's backlog of unpaid bills, do you know what else tripled that year? His income. Yeah, we haven't talked about this in a long time, you know? But think about this. The state's liabilities tripled within 2 years of Bruce Rauner taking office. Yet his personal income went from like $53 million before he was governor to like $187 million the year after. Coincidence? I don't know. But I just think, like, do the math, right? It doesn't add up. That 12% interest. The way it works is if you enter into a contract with me, the state of Illinois, right? You're a vendor. You provide, let's say you provide food for the correctional facilities, right? I don't pay you, and because I don't pay you, after 90 days, we start to have to pay you late payment interest penalties, right? This interest. Now, because you can't afford to go 2 years without getting paid, you enter into a contract with AKA Kwame's business. It's not, so don't hold it against him, but I'm just saying. If he was part of this vendor payment program, which many of you probably don't even know about, he would say to you, you know, Alice, I know you can't you can't survive 2 years without getting paid. So how about I give you 90% of what the state owes you, and then I keep your 12% interest, right? That now turned into over $1 billion program. Am I getting the hook? All right, I'm sorry. $1 billion program. But here's why we need to understand this, ladies, because this is important. It's not just about like all the rhetoric that we hear. I mean, this stuff matters. Who's in leadership matters. It's your money, and it could be spent on programs that help women and children and things like that. But instead, we now have a $1 billion plus program that no one knows about, that no one knows who Kwame partners with to be able to give you 90% of what you're owed up front. The only thing we knew about this program was that the governor approved it, and he's making a ton of money, $1 billion, him and all the other 7 or 8 participants in this vendor payment program. Now, as a result of our transparency revolution, as of January 1st, we will know who all his partners are. They will be audited, right? There will be a paper trail of sorts of who is benefiting off of the state's financial dysfunction. I think it'll be interesting to find out, right? So we've got a lot of things that we're working on. But my full-time job besides that has been truly fighting outside of my weight class every single day since I got elected, taking on Bruce Rauner, giving him no quarter for what he's doing with those shenanigans, and actually painting a picture of what his financial dysfunction means to the moral fabric of our state. Women, children, I mean, this is a guy who cut autism funding and announced it on World Autism Day, right? Like, this is who we need to beat. If we don't do our job today and the next day and the next day and the next day, and I think by now it's probably like 55 minutes or 50 minutes and 7 days, right? Then shame on us. We can't leave this up to the boys and all the other professionals who claim to have like a bigger political pedigree than we do. We are women, and we've got to take care of our own business. So we have 7 days today. Everybody here marches to the poll who hasn't voted yet and votes. I already did. Juliana did. We took people with us. Please do that. It is not enough to just go to the polls today and vote. We need each and every one of you to dig deep, reach out to every Democratic family member or friend you have, and find every confused Republican that you can, and get them out there to vote for Kwame, for Juliana, for JB, for Jesse White, who's like the greatest, for Mike Frericks, who's my counterpart in the Treasurer's office, who's doing great things. Don't forget about yours truly, Susana Mendoza. But every Democrat, from the top of the ticket to the bottom, because we need to do this. And I'm gonna leave you with this. When I was 6 years old, I was born in a little village, but when I was 6 years old, my brother Joaquin found an old pair of Everlast red boxing gloves in the garbage can in our back alley. He took them out, he thought they were cool, and he put them on his little sister who was 6. I was tiny. He taped them to me with duct tape. And then he taught me how to throw a punch. And he told me that I needed to know how to defend myself. You know, because I lived in a tough neighborhood, and he said, you need to know how to defend yourself. I remember what it was like to walk to school afraid of getting shot. And that stuff still happens today way more than it should. But ever since that day, and I won't forget it, he taught me how to defend myself. And I've been defending myself, but not just myself, everybody else who needs someone to defend them and stand up for them since that day. We now get a chance to, pretend, visualize that you are grabbing a pair of big red boxing gloves. Put them on. Let's fight it out for the next 7 days and take care of business come November 6th at 7:01 p.m. We know we gave it our best shot. When that bell goes off, we just won this fight. You with me? Yes. Let's fight!